and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. We are the Dadley Boyz of WhatCulture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to review everything that happened on last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review AEW Dynamite, but also AEW Collision, Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round of the week complete. The video quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, though, joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to review last night's Dynamite and all the fallout from All In.
Indeed, lots of fallout. Yeah. Strange old Dynamite in... That's a little bit delirious. Strange old Dynamite in that first 35 minutes, I'm like... Power's back. Then there was a little bit of that's over. There was some excellent stuff on this show. There was some disappointing stuff on this show. There was some questionable stuff on this show. And there is something on this goddamn show where, you know, when you can just like, you can feel the red mist descending, right? And you're just getting a bit angry. And then you can also just like sarcastic, and that's like usually a precursor to anger, and like blood starts to boil, and you're like, ugh. Like there's a freakazoid, an AEW freakazoid, an AEW sexual buried deep within this charred heart. And my God, I was coming to the defense of something that happened on this show that other people who apparently know ball just weren't getting, and I will explain it to you. It's fine.
I thought the freakazoids were extinct, but in fact they lay dormant. No, I feel like the power. We've talked a little bit about Dynamite over the desk this morning. Jackie makes a change, doesn't it? Like, it's been a while since we've been like, it's like, oh, we'll best save this for the review, but we've ended up sort of talking half of it. I think the power is back because I didn't like quite a bit of this show, and yet we're sort of going, but I am sort of curious to see where that goes. I'm curious to see what that development's all about. I like the rollout of that, but that might be quite interesting. There was loads of that, which tells me there's been a faith restored. It's not entirely by All In, but certainly the build to it. Yeah. The sense this year that they knew how big that show was going to be. The feeling I think we all had that it was very viable this year. The 2 weeks I don't think that's the reason for it. I just think it's an extra help. But the feeling that AEW very much had organised the booking around there being two cards quite close to each other. All Out could have been this Sunday, and it'd still be a better deal than last year. Yeah. Like, the card they've got right now is good to go, and you could slap a couple of matches on through Collision and Rampage, and you'd be ready. Like, they've planned for pay-per-view, 2 weeks pay-per-view. This isn't, don't get it twisted, it's not a 2 week build. A couple of things are, but the card itself isn't. And I think it's helped everything. It helped All In, it's going to help All Out, it's helping TV, things feel connected, things feel joined up, and I'll do it now, because it's just a broader point about this Dynamite. It did feel, it's what I imagine Sage feels like having to watch a Raw after a really hot AEW pay-per-view. Where it's like, that's the wrestling I love versus the wrestling that I cannot really tolerate. It was an enormously distracting drop-off for me this week, seeing a crowd that I don't think cared for about half of this, that was also quite small. Yeah. Off the back of the polar opposite on Sunday.
This was small by AEW 2024 standards, this.
It's not. We know this. The big Wembley shows aren't a fix.
No, it'd be nice if they were.
Fine, they've been lovely if they were. It's a like reality of it, I think. But it's just a bit of this. But again, they've booked loads of stuff for All Out in Chicago, where it's going to be hot. So they're heading towards more cool, big, hot shows.
So Champaign, Illinois. What was the name of this arena, Wilborn?
I need to look that up, actually. That's a very good point, because I saw a lot of people talking about the small number in attendance here. Let's have a look. Hang on. No, that's not that one. Not that one. There's a Winnipeg Pro Wrestling Rumble in the Burton. It's at the Burton Cummings Theatre. I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
I'll circle back to it.
See that you do.
Idiots on the internet.
Anyway, how did the show start?
The show started with
all dads. All dads in our 30s. It's part of the branding. It's really key to it.
Raw in our 30s.
That's it. Fact.
We saw the return of Jon Moxley. First time we've seen him since Forbidden Door, of course.
Oh, my God.
He had his
for the tune.
Death Rider theme, to walk through the crowd.
He had them wail on that guitar solo as well on the extender. It's an extender. It's bliss.
It was Tony Schiavone getting very excited. "You all right, John?" he says. And John's a bit grumpy. He says, "I've been doing a lot of thinking of late. I want to speak to someone who's nothing like me yet, shares a lot of similarities. Darby Allin. It's about time we had a talk. I won't be hard to find." He goes to leave, and then doubles back whilst Tony's like, "Well, great to see you, John." He says, "I want to tell you something." I thought he was going to hit him for a split second. "It'll take some time for everyone to wrap their brains around this, but this is not your company anymore," he says, and then he leaves.
Until a little bit later in the show, I absolutely loved this until a little bit later in the show. Because for Dynamite is so formal and so structured and so similar one week to the next. You can, argue whether they should disrupt that or whatever, but you kind of know what you're getting. And it is, in fact, so regimented that you can almost discount. Yes, there's been you can probably throw some examples in my face of, "Oh, well, what about this time? What about this time?" You can almost rule out things that aren't likely to happen, like returns or, angles or whatever, because when this person's interacting with this person and, there's no space because it makes no sense for that act or that wrestler to appear on this show.
Your head's so locked into the format at this point, it's really hard to switch it off, isn't it?
It's hard to switch it off, and I wish I had an example to mind. I really wish I'd done my bloody job this morning. Instead of my other bloody job, writing lists. I really wish that I'd come up with a better prepared with an example. But I remember once I was like, could this be the night that, I don't know, the Elite come back or whatever? And it's like, well, no, because if you look at the format of the show, they would be running in around this time, but there's already 5 matches, none of whom they're interacting with. So when Jon Moxley, for the first time I can remember, it just decides to bring up Darby Allin's name. I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. You get that feeling of, what is happening and where is this going? And I thought they'd nailed that. It was all beautifully off kilter, this. You were meant to be asking at every turn, what? What? Death Rider theme instead of Wild Thing. Talking about Darby Allin. Why has Darby Allin's name come out of his mouth? Why he's not congratulating Danielson, or why is he your company anymore? You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. The Scott Hall thing from 1996. That's just essentially what this was. And throughout, I was just going, wait, what? Where the hell's this going? I genuinely wanted to follow up, just not the one we got. Such an AEW thing, this. I love it. I reckon on balance, at a start, if wrestling's ended tomorrow, and in a year's time, with the benefit of hindsight, what's your favorite promotion ever? I would say AEW. I just would. I look at the amount of stuff they've done. It's ridiculous. Right?
Don't know what I'd go with. Sorry.
Right. Where was I going with that? I've completely
Don't let him distract you.
I've lost my train of thought now.
If AEW ended tomorrow.
Yeah, what was I saying before that?
You were talking about, you used the Scott Hall comparison to Jon Moxley.
Oh, no, I said, it was so AEW, what happened later in the night. And that's, it can be a bad thing. I'm not trying to just go, bloody AEW. Probably my favourite promotion ever. But this follow-up later, I was like, give it a week. Let me sort of fantasy book for a week. And then it looked a bit like every Dynamite angle ever, deeper into the show. And then it's like, you've got something that just you don't do, ever, really, in segment 1. And then deep into the show, what it turns into is like, you see this kind of thing on Dynamite every week. What? Give it a week. God damn it. Tease out the mystery. Very Tony Khan. But this was initially really exciting. And it still could be.
I think it will be. It is probably worth reviewing these together in that respect, because it's important to put over for me here. Jon Moxley's performance, just in quite a subtle for pro wrestling way. You always have to say for pro wrestling. Got to remember kind of what you watch. But I've not felt as engaged in Jon Moxley in probably a year, maybe longer. And yet, from the moment the music hit and he was walking and he changed his pacing slightly, he was like everything about him, like Jon Moxley, we talked about this when we were just completely head over heels in love with him. He's quite a good actor for wrestling, like is very capable as a comedic performer for wrestling. And he kind of was really flexing that here. And I don't think any of us were sort of, all of us were reading between the lines when we're saying this man is not particularly content in his place of work, doing what he's doing. He's a man that kind of wears his interest on his sleeve.
It was becoming apparent. We've mentioned this on the podcast. I think other people have noticed it. It becomes even more apparent when you see footage of him from like 3-4 years ago. It's like, Jesus, that's where it is. And that's who I fell in love with.
I felt that guy was coming back instantly. It was like something has happened here that you've been given a passion project, or it's something you really want to make work, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There was without sort of describing the performance outright, but that like sinister, slightly scary Jon Moxley, and that's the guy he's been portraying the last couple of years, a more sort of scarier BCC him, but I haven't necessarily felt it. Certainly not really. After a certain point, you stop believing in it, really. And this was back kind of instantly. They always use Tony Schiavone when you need someone to get that kind of thing over, so that was very effective.
Really good juxtaposition.
Yeah. To Sidge's point about the name checking of Darby Allin, it sent, like, immediately I was fantasy booking, and immediately I was thinking, right, what's Darby Allin doing right now? Yes, he's got a title shot, but like he's just lost quite a high-profile match at Wembley through taking one risk too many. And that's kind of a constant theme. We all look back lovingly at the 2 Jon Moxley Darby Allin matches, and Moxley, you can already hear him saying, like, you're right there 5 years on, and you're right there, maybe even a little lower. Time to get serious, kid. And then like that's before knowing what was to come. You can already start hearing that from a Jon Moxley as this sort of guy. What was the thing he was? It's not your company anymore. A guy that wants to take control of a situation. Like, and then I even was thinking Tony Schiavone, like, yes, the voice of Tony Khan often, so he could just be directing the message through Schiavone, but even Schiavone himself kind of perpetuates the Darby Allin pantomime thing because he's gone from it's Sting to it's Darby, like, and that, like, Moxley might look at everybody as part of the problem. He might look at like 5 people and think you should all be here and none of you are killers. You've all had your wings clipped for whatever reason, and I'm taking this by the scruff of the neck. There is a suggestion that you think some of this for a shoot about All Elite Wrestling. So the best characters, the ones turned up to 11, all that kind of thing. Really, really good feelings about this. And I completely agree with Sidgwick, but we're patient. Like, we're patient that it's going to work out. But I agree that I don't think this was I think it would have been more fun to speculate for 7 days about exactly where this was going rather than immediately get right, it's from a stable. Shafir's always been one of his. He's for years he's been talking at Marina Shafir.
Yeah, let's cover off what happened later on after the Ricochet match before Danielson came out at the end of the show. He's being followed backstage by a camera crew who's asking what he meant earlier, and he goes up to some backstage people and basically says they need a lesson in humility, and they're attacked, and it's revealed to be Marina Shafir. I don't know her.
I do. I know her.
Good. And she attacks them. One bloke runs up and goes, miss. Nope, and just leaves. And then she even shoves the cameraman to the ground as well.
Yeah. Like, so I'm watching that opening segment, and again, they just, like, sort of generate this feeling. They summon this feeling of just incredulity and, what? It's really, really effective. And then an hour and a half later, they basically do a run-of-the-mill backstage assault, the likes of which have been seen on AEW TV and WWE TV and TNA TV and US cable wrestling TV for what, 25 years? 25 years, if not longer at this point. So I'm like, oh God, it looks already within AEW. You know what I mean? Even if they did it a week after, you'd think, where's, you know, it just felt like something that was not in the fabric of AEW.
To your Scott Hall comparison, they were always very good with that. They always made it feel like it was an hang on. That was where not on the format came from.
The wrong feeling.
Because it actually felt like it wasn't on the format for the longest time. Yeah.
It felt like the wrong feeling.
They're police with guns.
Yeah. It felt like a wrong off feeling in Seg 1, and then in Seg whatever it was, deeper in the show, it felt like, it's on the format sheet then. You know, it was just a bit weird. I didn't like that. But maybe I'm being pedantic. And my other problem maybe with it is, I watched this, Death Rider, Darby, oh God, Blackpool Combat Club, rest in peace. Jubilant.
Yeah.
That this idiotic idea for a stable that has never consistently elevated anyone in it. Bryan Danielson is Danielson. He's going to thrive whatever he does, and he's done it in spite, I would say, of the Blackpool Combat Club. And then you think, it's another group of hard people. Maybe it's a better one. Maybe all of this time that Moxley has taken off, he has spent really honing in on what he wants, who he wants to do it with, how it's going to go, how long it's going to go, focused, direct, because it just felt like he was turning up to work to chin people for a while. Maybe the time spent away, and there's been a decent chunk of it.
Yeah.
How many?
Forbidden Door, I think, when he lost the belt, lost the IWGP title.
Yeah. Was, what month was that?
July, was it? Early July, so maybe it was June. Yeah.
End of June, yeah.
June.
So he's had like a good month and a half.
Yeah, and we know what he's been doing. It even got out online yesterday that he didn't bother coming to Wembley. He went to like a Hard Lads shooter show.
Yeah.
So you know
nice.
So you know that's where his head and heart is at currently, and now you look back and you think, we were supposed to know that.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be thinking that just to sort of...
So he's passionate about being hard, much like Adam Wilborn.
Indeed.
And that this feels like another outlet for that. Hopefully it's a better outlet for the Blackpool Combat Club, which, we took the piss of like them just wanting to be hard lads. It was a bit boring, to be honest.
Yeah.
But maybe there was something in it, if there was some actual narrative progression, and please don't conflate me with a bad faith podcaster, but storytelling does make this whole thing work. Hopefully there's a big fixed plan in place, because that was the main problem with the BCC, just wanting to walk around and be tough together. We'll see where it goes. I was very, very intrigued, and I'm still intrigued.
Another potential positive. AEW doesn't typically love... There's been the odd rule-proven exception, mixed stables. This is possibly another feather in the cap of the women's division, that if it's a Jon Moxley project, Marine Sphere is going to get pushed. You had it with, I would say, TJ in the JAS, but that never really went.
They were clowns.
Like, how many times was like Serena D pitched as a BCC member? And it was just like, it never happened. And you would get that with...
Statlander and Best Friends. That worked.
Yeah, that did work. It does work. There's been like WWE have kind of relied on it a little bit in some cases. So as the further like 2024 gold
star... the bloodline next?
Gold star elevation of the women's division.
What she did in the Chisholm, of course.
She can't... More of a question, so you're not getting the full button press. Did it. Who's worse, Ava or Tonga Loa? Ooh. I mean, they're both absolutely useless.
I would love to see...
being a booker. Jesus. Incredible. Booker and Crook of the Year for me.
Kruger of the Year? What's that Kruger?
I'd really like to see Tonga Loa as an authority figure.
Jesus Christ.
Stumbling, tripping over as he walks to his office door.
I will say, obviously, lots of.
Is that one of those teachers
online.
when you're at school? You must have had one. I don't know if you had one. Everyone's had one, so you would have had one. When you go to school, like comp, usually it happens, and you get like a certain teacher, and you're like, I know that's Mr. Jones. He probably should have retired a few years ago. Yeah. That's like the vibes that Tongaloa would bring to the school, to the institution.
Like I said, school. Could you definitely think of that next?
Yeah.
Like 100%. That's where he's the GM over.
Mr. Jones. He should have retired a couple of years ago. He's not really well.
I will say, a lot of speculation online, like you say, with the Marine Shafir being linked into this, and then Josh Barnett's name was being thrown around. Another name,
yeah, bring it on.
That was being thrown.
Josh Barnett versus Jay White.
Yeah, we've all been waiting all these years. You could put Jim Ross on commentary for it.
Yeah.
You talk about an invasion. Shane McMahon was another name doing the rounds on social media.
That's hilarious.
I want to see it. I can understand why Mox would be the conduit.
Well, Shane McMahon is a legitimate mixed martial arts enthusiast.
Yes,
who is one claim to fame in his entire life outside of being a sweaty arsehole nepo baby is almost did, mate. Almost did by the UFC. He kind of didn't. You just knew it was going to get big. Or the one thing he did was predict something.
Yeah.
Didn't actually buy it. Didn't actually run it.
On like an online show, didn't he? That was his other big thing. And he could. So they could have like a devil iconography as part of the brand of the group, and it could just be called 666.
Yeah.
AEW Underground. Start that. So that's one.
That's Moxley's thing, Dad. We had a good run.
That's what it could be called. AEW Underground. Oh, that'd be good.
Ooh, we could do a guess the stable game at some point.
Yeah. this is not your company anymore. Maybe, you know, Tony owns 50%, the EVP's the other 50%.
I'm going to go with Death Jitsu, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good
Because that's his own branding for his style, like, you know, that deathmatch brawling with the MMA. So that's his own Death Jitsu. That'll be a cool name for it. And now that Death Triangle are no more, you can use Death in part of the stable name.
What does Jon Moxley love to do in his matches?
Bleed. Not as much as he used to, though.
What does Shane McMahon like to do in his matches?
Sweat.
Blood, sweat, and tears. There you go. There's your stable name, ladies and gentlemen.
They've got Paul White backstage. He was always a good on-screen crier.
And I've got, oh my God, I've got the entrance music as well. You think you know me. You don't know me. You know me. On this day, it's Jon Moxley. Well, we've killed that.
Done that, yeah. Hell of a run for Mox's new group.
They just spinned off the whole power struggle with the Elite then.
Well, I don't think so.
Or is that related to this with the it's not your company anymore sort of thing?
I mean, whose company is it? I don't know shit about when it comes to who owns this company or who can overrule who. Who the hell knows? I think that was just his way of saying we're taking over and going to remake it in our own image, and they didn't do that with the BCC, but maybe second time's the charm. I don't know what's going on with that. The Christian Cage thing would seem, because they made a big deal of what he's already wrestled, would indicate to me that maybe the Young Bucks, because they like him for whatever reason, gave him that spot. I don't care.
No, I don't care. They didn't give you much reason to care, truthfully. If they now quietly abandoned it and we just went weeks and weeks where the Young Bucks were just the tag team champions, defend the belts again, the Elite are just a stable, I don't think anyone would even flag it up. I think they'd just sort of accept it as it's not even really an abandoned story. It's just it reached this.
You alluded to it with Jack Perry saying, like, I did all this stuff to get where I am.
That's a really good point. They're keeping it going, yeah.
No, but it's not necessarily like the reason that he's got that shot. Danielson said, I'll fight anyone. He was like, oh, that'll be there.
There's a very good reason why he got the shot, and I'll explain it to you later.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, moving on. We'll wait and see how this goes. The Conglomeration are interviewed by Renee. Mark Briscoe says that Ishii was going to whoop some cowboy ass. The rest of them are going to take care of business in that 8-man tag. Willow Nightingale says she's going to challenge Chris Statlander to a Chicago street fight at All Out.
Oh, my God.
And the word of the day is indefatigable, which means unable to feel fatigue, which is exactly what they were going to showcase later on. And then Ishii walked off ahead of facing Hangman Page next. And then we got the match between Ishii and Hangman Adam Page. The beginning was just them hitting each other as hard as they could, leading to basically a standoff. That effectively took us to a break. And when we come back, I'm going to move out of the way here. Hangman Page hit a DDT on the apron, and Ishii stood on his head for about 3 minutes.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
He's getting nailed in the corner by Hangman before he comes back, does Ishii with a headbutt, back suplex, gets a near fall. He also gets a superplex on Hangman Page, who comes back with a Death Valley driver, but gets hit with a German suplex in response. Double Down takes us to another break. When we come back, they head to the apron after a Hangman Page German. He attempts the buckshot. That gets countered by a Deadeye from Ishii.
Press the button on that one,
Oh,
please.
my God. Oh, my God.
Because it was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
He went down on his ass. Hangman Page straight.
Really strong.
Got your knees, Ishii? No.
really strong style lariat, gets the 2 as well. He headbutts Page, who comes back with a discus elbow strike. Sets up Deadeye to Ishii, buckshot lariat, 1, 2, 3 for Hangman Adam Page. We'll talk about what happened post-match in a second.
Go to him first, because it's a bad news, good news situation.
I thought this was mostly quite boring, and maybe that
Wrestling.
yeah, a little bit.
Boring.
That was what you could hear in the building when you could hear anything at all, and that was part of the problem. Like
The last 5 minutes were really quite hot.
No, they
were quite hot, really.
Nah, you're objectively incorrect. They were working really hard. They were working
Stop
really.
fighting.
Maybe turn up the volume button on your
They were
little.
working really,
your little
really,
clicker.
really hard. Watch it on my phone. It's 2024.
Oh, well, it's
They,
the button then, isn't it?
They were working really, really hard, hitting each other really hard, whatever. But they were trying their best. And there were spots that I loved. I've asked for the button.
Yeah.
All the way through. I've asked for the button.
Lean over and press it, you lazy bitch.
When this was good,
Miss can have Mr. Button, that's not my name.
Mr. Button sounds like the teacher that was like, Mr. Button gives me the creeps.
Mr. Button, can you press your button?
Mr. Button should have retired 2 years ago.
Something's not right.
I should have retired 2 years ago when AEW was finished.
I didn't think much of this, but the cool spots were cool.
I thought that they probably have better in them, or maybe generously, Hangman Page, this version of Hangman Page versus like the Prime G1 Ishii. You're talking match of the year stuff.
Yeah.
And because it's the same wrestlers, you get yourself in that zone of, well, this is what to expect. You know, Ishii's still great, but not quite as great. So there was a bit of, wasn't too many forearms. I will concede that. But, you know, it wasn't deathly quiet. We're not talking 2019 WWE here. Like, there was a very small, almost embarrassing crowd, but they did really get into the last 5 minutes of this match, as did I. Like, it felt really, it wasn't just they hit each other hard, it felt like they wanted to hit each other hard at various points, and that's the difference for me. Like the Ishii bump instantly, like that, people will remember that. Yeah. That's Ishii for you. But like there's a bit where there's 2 headbutts in this match. There's one when I think Hangman Page is sat on the top turnbuckle ready to launch into whatever, and Ishii just does that stick one on him, and it looked like, oh God. There's one deeper where it just looks like he's shattered his bottom, Hangman's bottom row of teeth. It looked horrible. How do you work that?
Yeah. They sold the headbutts as not the move, but as in a stunner, as in something that would stun you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you'd be stuck on the top rope to be hit with like a suplex, and you absolutely bought that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The cool thing about Hangman hitting hard is that he probably welcomes receipts. It's like, every now and then.
Of course he does.
Sorry about that. You can do it back and just like.
Of course he does. Yeah, it took a little bit while to click, but when it did click, it felt like a close approximation, a very close approximation of what their very best match would look like for 5 minutes at the end. But that was enough for me. I was really happy watching it. That Ishii Deadeye, Hangman Page's goddamn neck looked like when a cartoon character breaks their neck. Yeah. Just like, felt horrible. It's always bad when Taz audibly winces. Like there's whenever something from the early 2000s era of SmackDown appears online, it's usually you can hear Taz just get terrified, like a Bradshaw clothesline, or it's like a Los Guerreros double team where someone gets spiked on their neck the other week.
Okay, I didn't see that one, but yeah, there were.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
He's got PTSD for neck stuff.
Yeah. And I got that energy 3 or 4 times. I got 3. Just bleeds. I start counting how many noises I make. I'm serious.
Just as a way to measure your feelings during the show. Yeah.
There was a campaign to get your scream on the soundboard from the All In review, by the way.
As it bloody should be.
Maybe he is Mr. Buttons.
You said the crowd in Champaign, Illinois were quiet, not so big. They were at the State Farm Center, or as I like to call it. Hang on, I'm just going to get rid of the adverts. Still need to pay for the app here. The State Fart Center.
Well, it's funny that you answered, because I asked, because on the preview I came up with my own, and I wanted to see if we were in lockstep with one another.
And were we?
No.
Okay.
Not even close.
Because State Farm Center, more like the Masturbate Farm Center.
All good stuff. Swerve comes out afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
I liked...
Mr. Buttons is on the case.
Oh my God.
I saw someone describe this. I liked angry Nana dance. Coming out. Swerve obviously pissed off as well. They go forehead to forehead. He said he should slap Page into a bloody mess right now for getting involved at All In. But he came out to see the look on his face and say he feels sorry for him. He's a petulant little child. With every tirade and tantrum that he throws, he gets further and further away from success while Swerve gets closer to it. Yes, Swerve says, I don't have the title, but I'll always be referred to as a world champion. This will always be whose house?
Swerve's house.
You failed, basically. This winds up Page even more. He screams that Swerve isn't a champion of anything, calls him a piece of you-know-what.
I love the delivery on that. Just that you don't have anything clever or poetic to say. You just scream a swear word in someone's face.
Talks about him breaking...
Because you're at the end of your goddamn tether.
Talks Talks about him breaking into his home and then wrestling him 3 times, and Swerve couldn't win on his own. First time it was Nana, then it was Nana and Brian Cage, and the third time it took 30 minutes and he couldn't get the job done. He's not as good as he is. Swerve isn't as good as Page is. Pronouns pal.
Pronoun boy.
Pronoun boy.
He wants
Screwing around too much. Screwing around.
leave him out of it. He says he wants it to end like it began, with you on your knees. And he says, all right. Swerve responds by saying, how about we lock them out and lock us in? All out steel cage match.
Oh my God.
And he talks about something he did that Page doesn't know about after his fight with Joe.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
Drove to Hangman's house. He reveals, I'm fairly certain we didn't know this.
We didn't.
Hangman Page has had a second child. That's why he was obviously off telly for a while.
I love that.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And Swerve parked out in front, waiting until the morning, and saw Page escorting his pregnant wife down the stairs, bags packed, getting in the car, driving off to the hospital, off to be a father for the second time. That's the man he was supposed to be. And he realised in that moment he didn't need to be focused on Page. He needed to be focused on the title, being the best in the world. That's what he did. Mark his words, it's going to happen again. But Page is so focused on Swerve, he can't win the Owen, he can't win the Gauntlet, he can't win at Blood and Guts. It all makes sense now.
Always did.
He challenged Page to remind the world what Cowboy is all about. Instead of trying to burn Swerve's world to the ground, Page's career is going up in flames. What kind of man are you going to be? What kind of man will you show your kids? Page just storms off at that point.
I thought this was absolutely incredible peak AEW television stuff. This unbelievable delay in that revelation to suit the story. And like, fair play to everyone in that company, which is obsessed gossip and getting things out there these days to keep that quiet. Really, 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 really cool. And fair play, that's absolute minimum requirement. The lowest bar for pro wrestling, but I'm just glad that this thing sort of exists now. He pushes Safia coming back. I love the idea. First of all, the delivery here was great. As I said, Page just is at that point now, and it's good because we time it this way because we're right next to the pay-per-view where he's so out of words, or at least he thought he was until he was pressed. He's just at the end of that tether now, the end of that fuse. He can only bring himself to just scream a swear word in the guy's face. So they timed this wonderfully. There was a lot of discourse about whether they should have delayed this until Full Gear, if it's a year-long build or a two-week build or somewhere in between. I thought from a character perspective, all of this was done perfectly. Love the detail of Swerve just driving to his house menacingly whenever he wants to. His new house as well.
To stop that happening.
I just loved that because what they've done, enough time has passed now, because at the time people thought, oh, this is just pretty stupid. Like, press charges, it's a crime, and like, where's Hangman Page's wife and all the rest of it? And enough time has elapsed where people have just, because Hangman Page's character, this new heel character, is so fantastic, and the heel character was born from the response to that original angle. The original angle in retrospect feels like a masterstroke. It feels like you got into my house and you were hovering over my baby's crib, you piece. At the time, it was really hokey. But now, because Hangman Page has done such wonderful stuff with his heel character, it feels like the biggest transgression that you could actually buy. So I love, love, love how they sort of line us. I've been there again. I've been in a new house. Just, they've made, retrospectively, through great character work and storytelling, a pretty risible story beat. Incredible. So absolutely fair play at that. And additionally, one more thing. I just love the idea. This is away from the fiction, kind of. I love the idea of Hangman Page at home, watching his first child just play around, run about, cradling his newborn in his arms for like a couple of months, 3 months, I don't know how long, a decent chunk of time. The baby napping, thinking, right, how do I turn into a complete massive prick? how evil can I be? What should I do to make myself more evil as you're in this like situation? It's just, wrestling's funny, innit?
Yeah.
Gigging in front of your daughter on Sunday night.
I hadn't really thought about this before we came in here, but to Sidge's point about how they have made good on something that was like understandably divisive at the time, the home invasion.
I thought it was stupid.
Like, that is real maybe, and it wasn't something I thought about at the time, but sometimes that's good. Like, the subconscious thought is maybe all of this is so awesome. Maybe I'm going to just trust some segments that I don't like this week. Maybe I'm going to trust the process and sort of rely on AEW to. Tony Khan asked us to trust us about a match yesterday on this Dynamite that I didn't like, and yet I've come away from this Dynamite with more faith in AEW and in stuff that I didn't like that much that I've had in ages, and maybe that comes from stuff like this. This storyline has been an overwhelming success. One of AEW's best feuds ever. Like Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland, I would say is probably the hottest match in all of North American pro wrestling. So big, in fact, that imagine how much everybody...
being a dick and saying that because the strap match is in Berlin.
No, but that's, now you've said it now. No, it's because it is. It's because it's the biggest, right? Like, and think about how universally beloved Sunday's main event was, and how pretty much up to Showtime, some people still wanted Page Swerve for that spot. That's how big that match is. And yet, all you had to do was rely on AEW to stick the landing, and they were always going to do it. But what I found, without like going into the detail and everything they've laid out, because they just pretty much covered it, it's worth sort of watching the segment and just spotting, and this is one of the reasons I love CM Punk, by the way, spotting how much very, very pro wrestling exposition they had to get through and hiding it.
Yeah.
The verbal delivery, the cool lines, the killer back and forths. We see them 100 times a week, but the real greats are the ones that hide it in the delivery and the timing of the lines. The Hangman's swear. I thought the exact same thing of that kind of like, you're out of gas. Off. Yeah, just like, where's your like really cool put down? You haven't got one. You just end your tether. And the greats do that, and you still got to sell the fight, you still got to sell the pay-per-view and remind the viewers, all that kind of thing. It was anything but an exposition dump. And that's what really separates the star talkers and the promos from just going out there and talking.
It was it's a really good point, because it didn't really feel at all like previously on wrestling. Previously in this fooed. Previously in this program.
Previously in his house.
Yeah.
You can visualise Swerve in the car as well, can't you?
Yeah.
Parked up like a little mile away. Hangman lives in the country somewhere, and he's just like parked his car up, and you wouldn't even notice it. And like you picturing a bit in a film, aren't you? Where you see the cup, you can see the baby in Page's arms. The whole it's so real to you.
Great use of imagery.
Yeah, and Swerve as champion, like think I'm not going to forget you. I will have to come back to you. But when I saw you came back in that state, all the more reason for me to not give a toss. Yeah. But it's the best thing going.
Jamie Hayter versus Harley Cameron followed that. Great to see Hayter
Not
back.
quite the best thing going this.
As the fans chanted, welcome back to Hayter. Little bit of offense for Harley Cameron in there, but Hayter immediately fights back, stomps her in the corner, hits her with a clothesline, an attempted slam by Harley Cameron, but Hayter escapes that.
Big botch as well at one point. A good save from Hayter. Was it the Stratisfaction she was trying?
Hayter was able to just say, no, I'm too strong for that, I'm going to hold on to you and throw you. But it was obvious what was...
Just nailed it with a big boot. Hit multiple backbreakers and hit the Haterade Lariat for the 1-2-3. Post-match, Saray didn't want any of this, just legged it.
The backbreakers were very cool. Nice to see. There are certain times when I was thinking, what we're doing here. I don't want to see Saray on my television. And that was before the recent controversy, which makes me want to see her on television way less. It's just been a complete and utter dud bust. You know what I mean? She has.
Aye.
Let's stop tiptoeing around this sort of stuff. She's been a complete and utter dud. I don't want to see Jamie Hayter because ultimately your interest in Jamie Hayter goes down because of who the dance partner is. The dance partner is a dud who was done diddly squat realistically. Mother's took a better bump than her in this promotion. A mother. So and then you think, all right, okay, well you have to get to this bit to get to the next bit. And by that point, there's a certain something missing. Because it's not the first time. I just don't know what the frig would do sometimes with this women's division. It's like, it's now, I invent a new phrase here, it still always feels like, 5 steps forward, 1 step back. It's better than 2 and 1. But can we not have like...
No steps back.
Yeah. Can we not just have like Hayter versus Shida? Why not? Here's your return matches against the star. I've long campaigned for the idea being that like you can't book it like the men's division with your all right, so it can be a star versus star match in your main, and then because someone needs a win, they can go over your Jay Lethal, Bobby Fish, Brian Cage type. or your Wheeler Yuta Daniel Garcia, at one point Darby Allin type, you know? So you've either got Star versus Star, Star versus solid hand loser. No offense, but it exists to do that.
Yeah.
Star versus emerging prospect. You can't do that in the women's division because there's one match on Dynamite, Tony. So you then have this, like Holly Cameron. She's good. I don't want to watch someone necessarily who's good for the level of experience anymore. I've been doing that for 5 years and it's just not productive. If you look back at who I can't do this conversation anymore. Like, take on Red Velvet. It's like it's littered now with people who had real potential who you just don't hear from anymore. Holly Cameron will go to that wasteland with the rest of them. She did not need to wrestle that match. They should be doing more like Star versus Star matches in these women's division, especially if there's only one match per week. On Collision, which is for the sickos and the completionists, yeah, maybe do it then. On Dynamite, which should be Star versus Star, this achieved less than nothing. Good backbreakers, though.
The match was what it was. Hayter wasn't going to have a bad night as such because she's great. This was one of those cases for me where, like...
She already just feels they.
Yeah, a wrestling show thinks they're doing the right thing by people, but are inadvertently doing... It's like kind of a worst-case scenario. They're doing this, right, because... Well, they're doing it because they need to slot people in, but they're doing that AEW thing. Like, Will Washington is credited for being able to, like, keep continuity or retrofit things, and they're doing that with they showed the clip of the Outcasts. Double or Nothing.
Tony's always done that.
Yeah, so that's an AEW thing, right? And that's them thinking they're doing right by the Jamie Hayter character. It's the opposite.
Yes.
You see this footage, right? You see this footage, and number one, Toni Storm was the real beneficiary. She became the world champion, and it was a completely different version of Toni Storm, who's now a massively over babyface in an entirely different gimmick, a million years away from the Outcasts. Ruby Soho is off pregnant, and that was like a beautiful babyface moment on television. So that is dead. The Outcasts as a stable simply do not exist, and Saraya is the last person to beat. This is the equivalent of Bret Hart returning to the WWF post Montreal in about 2000. And only having the Road Dogg to get revenge on DX for.
Yeah.
Like, where's Shawn, where's Triple H? It's got nothing to do with it. Shawn's retired. China's out as a singles babyface. Well, he's in neon green that I can beat up for all this. Also with the dreads and the microphone. I guess I'm stuck with him then. Like, there's no... They think, we've got to tie this up. You don't. Hayter's like sailed beyond that. That was a bad thing. If down the line, if you want to say, Toni Storm, I don't care that you've gone crazy. You were the beneficiary that night, and I've never forgotten. I want the belt back. Different gravy. But that's because Toni Storm's become a massive star.
Yeah.
This isn't the revenge act they think it is, and it's just reduced Hayter's impact in her comeback as a result.
It's a good point that I've actually, and I'm in the process of writing an article, and I covered this off in that, but using a different example. AEW's plain weird obsession with continuity is both bad and good. Sometimes it's used to really enrich proper long-term stories, and they're sometimes so good at it that, look, I'm the high guy on it. I don't think Omega versus Mox ever reached the potential of that first pay-per-view night in that Double or Nothing 2019 closing angle of the entire show. I'm higher on a lot of the stuff that they did together than others, but ultimately, a lot of people don't think that's up there with the best AEW material, like Omega Page, MJF, Punk, Swerve Hangman, right? Can you remember the cage match?
Yeah.
Like last year, there was a video package out of that, and they did a phenomenal job of making you think, oh, Christ, is this legacy rivalry that's defined AEW, actually? They're usually really good when they need to of making this continuity and this history feels like it matters more than it did or matters as much as it should. In the case of Swerve and Hangman, sometimes they just need to let things go. No one cares.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. When Hayter came back, I started raving out, obviously, in the concourse. I didn't think, right, I hope she gets her bloody hands on those outcasts. Did you think that?
You and I thought, well, that's that Saraya thing dealt with.
Yeah.
In 6 months, she's saying, like, Ruby, I was parked outside your house watching you go with your new ball.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's not that story, is it?
It wasn't a good story at the time. You don't have to pick up good stories. The example I used about this is just a stupid thing that AEW does where it's noble failure stuff. It's not like bad. It's not good. You're so hyped for Wardlow versus Powerhouse Hobbs, Because like, oh Christ, good meat battle, TNT title picture, that's great. Then QTV form and QT Marshall helps Hobbs to win, and just he's won it if anything. And then they like Powerhouse Hobbs, this absolutely super jacked badass, spends his time hanging around with the fake news crew. What? Well, he sucks now.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking because I don't believe that at all, and it's stupid. It's because Powerhouse Hobbs was on that 2020 loop of, can I please work? Like, the indies are not here. And QTV was like, yeah, QT in real life was, yeah, come in.
Yeah.
Impress me. And he impressed them, so he got a job there, and then they brought them together in storylines. I don't care who got on the job. I don't need to see him being a stable with them. AEW's weird. Good, but weird.
Before we go any further, we have to get to the name of the game. Before we get to the name of the game, we have to get to the aim of the game, of course.
You're joking. We didn't do it yesterday, so I don't have to do it.
Okay, we don't have to do it.
The aim of the game is to identify to the hour, minute, and second the first time you hear the first note of the first entrance theme for the first woman who appears and makes her entrance to wrestle in the only women's match on Dynamite, with the idea being that, obviously, they changed it around now because they're trying to be tricky. But the usual idea is that they kind of put it in that 1 hour 20 to 1 hour 25 minute range. And you think, DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've noticed a pattern here. Boom, what's going on here? Are they doing this? Those delightfully devilish, Tony, those sneaky bugger, with the idea being that, if we just say, we'll have to put the broads in, otherwise all the wokes will kick off, right? But, oh God, when? I don't want to do this, because it doesn't feel like they do sometimes. When do we do this? What about if we just sneakily put them in before the big stuff? People will think, we're so close to the big stuff that we might as well put up with the broads and the yapping. And if you're thinking, that's a mouthful, right? That is my interpretation of AEW's very cynical thought process, which I have in turn jingleized to make it easier for you, which, on reflection, I could just jingleize it straight away. So what we do here, for some reason, that's what we do. So if you're thinking, that's a mouthful, get to the point, or summarize your point, okay, well, I'll jingleize and summarize at the exact same time. Thank you very much. Don't worry, guys.
It's my favourite Chemical Brothers song, jingle.
Don't worry, guys. And shut your mouth as well, asshole. When the women come out to play, the main event ain't too far away. That's the aim of the game. And since it was sprung upon me, the name of the game, let's go old school here.
Yes, good. I was hoping for that.
Kick it old school. It's a Simpsons reference, man. I'm not just a 39-year-old dork.
We're on our 30s.
We're on our 30s. Well, this is ladies' night, and I'm thinking, ooh, what a night. Hatfield.
Yeah, it was in the first hour.
A lovely bloke whose name I've forgotten, sadly, but I referred to him as Tube Man. Because it was the fellow we met on the Tube last year and had a lovely conversation with.
Oh, you were telling me about
And
this,
he came to the live show. It was lovely to see him. Tubeman. Mr. Tubeman. Asked me to do it.
The whole thing.
Oh,
it's amazing, that.
nice.
And I was like, I'm fairly certain everybody else has got that Spotify gimmick. 15 seconds through the ad. 15. Night time. Right, okay, I can stop.
He's a lovely fella, yeah.
They're all great.
Yeah. But he was particularly nice for us because it was a very stressful, packed tube, and he was the nicest bloke to talk to while you kind
Very
of
calming.
forgot your surroundings a little bit.
Shout out as always to the Panna Blair himself, Adam Blair at Adam Wilton 4 and Jose Palomares at the Ho 11. The guys who always take care of the
data.
Thank you for this sort of thing.
Where he's taking care of the data from.
I was just about to say, it was 38 minutes, 28 seconds. We didn't play it this week, of course. We'll try and, now Wacky Summer's nearly over, we'll try and start this back
I saw that he was having a pint at the airport and it's never too early, which is correct. It is never too early. Did it for like 5 o'clock on my kids' holiday, on my family holiday this year. 2 kids and I'm up 5:15. Full Circle Brewery.
Yeah. Good for
Let's
good beers at the
go.
airport,
Great beers.
Yeah, he's, as of an hour ago, he's now sat in a beer garden listening to the final countdown on repeat in Berlin ahead of this weekend's PLE.
A great time. Have a lovely time, Panda Blair.
Just been on one? Don't be jelly.
I'm always jelly when he's...
I just like...
Because I can't.
No, I'm not saying go dick face. I'm saying just reflect on the one you've just had and don't be spoiled. And then when you're reflecting on that and getting bored, why don't you reflect on Kylie and Block Party?
Right.
Be grateful for your life.
That's the message.
Don't covet another man's life. I'm a man of the cloth now. Man of the cat. I don't know, honestly, man, I need a long sleep after this London weekend. I've not had it yet.
And the learning tree. Chris Jericho and the gang backstage with Renee Paquette and Roderick Strong talks about Big Bill getting such a lovely reaction from the UK crowd.
Dr. Fed and the Reverend Dove.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm going to roll with this.
My child has not covered.
Covet another man's life.
Google all the commandments.
Yeah. I'll twist it.
Oh, God, that's good.
Big Bill said that fan reactions are like leaves. They changed and falls just around the corner. Jericho said he was proud.
Tree stuff, you see.
Yeah.
Jericho said he was proud of Hook for winning the FTW championship. And Roderick Strong did. Chris said, I'm proud of being.
Loves
I
that,
in my
loves
head
that bit,
watching
though.
this- heard that in my head watching this segment. You'll sigh. He's proud of being in the Jericho Vortex. He needed his help to take care of Orange Cassidy. And Jericho said Cassidy's going to pay for ruining his $7,000 suit a few years ago.
That's a nice callback.
And Brian Keith shouted, pay the damn price.
I feel like I've seen that in a million films and stuff and things. Someone saying something and then another character repeating it.
Yeah.
I feel like Jericho's probably seen it in those same films and thought, kind of the last guys to say stuff after somebody else said stuff.
Got to keep evolving. Repeat stuff.
Culmination.
We get a recap of the International American Championship match at All In, MJF Ospreay and Daniel Garcia, obviously. And then MJF comes up, no American flag stuff now. He's got Kinesio tape all up his neck, obviously.
Great line in this promo.
Taking the Tiger
Popped
Driver.
me stupid.
He said, shut up, everyone, and I'll come out and fight you, basically. I'm in pain. I've got a splitting headache. MJF talked about losing his championship, losing the beautiful diamond ring, getting injured. He denounced his American citizenship.
Oh my God.
Just popped me this. It's the way he just said it. It's a complete lie.
Yeah.
And he didn't even like America when you were the American champion. It's just funny.
He didn't want to be associated with the country, other than, of course, the most magical place in the world, Plainview, Long Island, New York. Sick of the fans living in lies. AEW without him is a circus. Speaking of liars, he turns his attention to Will Ospreay, cheating like a gutless little worm. He says this isn't over, not by a long shot. Keep your head on a swivel, Will. One day you're going to be coming this close to winning the big one, and I'm going to cut you out of the knees with a smile on my face.
Before I forget, now Will, they had something obviously incredibly cool for the CM Punk MJF.
I never forgot that.
That CM Punk MJF thing where it's like, don't worry, like I will you over. What if they had such a cool idea for an interference spot that they thought, well, I'm keeping that in the back pocket for when I need it, and maybe they're going on it again.
Exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
Because I hate that was my the worst thing about that was just what we lost with the Punk MJF second go around, because it was AEW never missed with that stuff at the time, did it? It's
Yeah.
like that character remembers. This is brilliant.
It was such a joy to think as well, because it's like, well, you haven't gone through your best ideas for this.
Yeah.
It's always the plan. Oh, what more? Get in. Okay, let's go.
He threatens Daniel Garcia next, but before he can really get on
And then
to
CM
that,
Punk ruined it, of course.
Kind of did ruin that, yeah. That worked out fine in the end. All's well that ends well.
yeah.
How many people were in attendance for this show?
I don't mean here.
I'm talking about his...
It worked out great for me.
I'm not necessarily talking about his drawing power, which, you know, kind of just flattened after a few months. Pay-per-views, you know. You did the pay-per-views, yeah.
Went out on top.
Yeah, I'm talking about the vibe. Coming back, though, maybe?
He gets attacked by Daniel Garcia as he starts talking about
Oh,
it.
he's just doing stuff on Raw now. It's not as interesting. It's about as interesting as Seth Rollins now. An ironic circle
You
of
are
hell.
right. It is a very high bar.
An ironic circle of hell. Dante himself could not have scripted a better ending.
Into mine.
Not everything's wrestling, mate.
Well, not everything's religion. Reverend Dub.
Don't take Reverend Dub name in vain. Do not. Thou shalt not take Reverend Dub's name in vain.
It's a good week, isn't it? Like, Wacky Summer's nearly over. I've enjoyed this week a great deal.
Bitfall is going to be good.
Garcia puts him in a guillotine.
My guest is a reverend.
Raw review. Check that out. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, looked like he was...
Is it good, Kane?
Yes.
Hey.
Shout out to Brian, great Photoshop on that one.
Amazing.
Yeah, great stuff.
Anyway, Garcia gets...
Back to the dub.
Gets MJF back up for a
Sunday.
pile driver.
It's always Palm Sunday when you're watching this.
Not really. I went off it for 2 years, so not really.
He goes for a super pile driver from the top rope, but security runs down to stop him. MJF has a chance to recover and attacks, but Garcia fires back up, looks to hit the avalanche pile driver, but security and Christopher Daniels intervene. They'll have to be separated. Garcia grabs the mic, says, "It's not going to be that easy, MJF. I know you're looking for the beautiful diamond ring, but I pawned it off in New York for a round trip to London to ruin the biggest moment of your life." That was a great line. Ruining your life is all I think about. It's my obsession. It's my fetish.
What's your fetish?
Probably like people, they're like stuck in a washing machine and they're like, oh. He wants MJF in Chicago, all out. He's going to drop him on his head and break his neck. He also threw the microphone. It was a great throw, this, from Garcia.
Keep the fuck on. Why did I ask? It's a horrible thing to say.
What's your uni, Wilbur?
Yeah, so thoughts on all this?
No, right. Okay, get back to bloody business. This was very, very good from MJF, and this was Garcia's night that he needed to have because his promo work in the build to this was not good at all, in my opinion. Not good by half. The injury write-off was, what it was. People thought the interference at Wembley was telegraphed. I'd forgotten about Daniel Garcia, to be perfectly honest. I wasn't like... every now and no offense to Garcia, I've talked before about I think he's one of the cleverest young wrestlers I've ever had the privilege to watch. It just doesn't seem like it's clicking over the last year or so. But sometimes I idly think about, what's Kenny going to do when he comes back? How could he come back? What's he going to do? Please don't do anything with Kota Ibushi and the Young Bucks. It's not 2018 anymore. I never think about that with Garcia. And yet now I'm hyped for the match.
I disagree.
Now I'm hyped for the match.
I disagree that it was a signposted thing. I'm with you on that one. Like I could have seen Garcia showing up, but I thought it was going to be like Ospreay wins. MJF was like, stood in the ring, and then he gets attacked. And it's like, bloody hell, now this as well. So
Either way,
someone said to Andy, "What's the story with Garcia?" Like, because it hasn't happened in 3 weeks. People are like, I can't remember. So
either way, I thought MJF was sinister here. He knew the exact tone to strike. Of course he does, his MJF. And I thought they did a really, really good job of when to do the physicality because it was the second his voice was raised. Usually, like, that starts to signal the rant. It's like, no, boom, need you now, need to kick your ass now. I believed Garcia for the first time in a long time. Big match coming up for him. So I'm stepping on the dick of our preview here. But they had a mid-match on Dynamite. End of last year. It was the end of last year where they were talking about, we might have it. Get two young lads out and talk about the feeling or whatever. Lick a tit or whatever. And then they had this 10 minutes and it was like, is that it?
Yeah.
So not the best sort of precedent in terms of their physical chemistry with one another, but that was just a bit of an exhibition match between a babyface and an upcoming babyface. So maybe this will be more of a brawl.
There was a couple of really nice details in this. It's super effective, yeah. It's like this could well be the making of Daniel Garcia at long last, and that'll be a feather in the cap of MJF when I still think he's got his critics, which I've often felt like we should be at pains to defend someone like an MJF as young as he is. But if this feud was to be the making of a Daniel Garcia, he's done what someone like a Chris Jericho couldn't do. Like they're just as a singular example. But there's a couple of details in this that just make me think this is going to work out great in the end. The MJF tweeted about the ring being stolen. Garcia botched this a little bit, by the way.
Brian Alvarez reported this as being a shoot.
Okay, well,
I prefer to think he's been worked, but maybe it really happened and Garcia was like, well, someone should take credit for it.
Yeah, like he tweeted this goddamn lawless country or whatever it is, somebody's stolen the diamond ring, and then he had to use brass knuckles in the match against Will Ospreay, and then Garcia sort of, if he'd have just delivered the line right, probably would have been all right, but he basically said he stole the ring and pawned it to get a return flight. That would have meant having to fly all the way back to New York to pawn it to fly all the way back to London. But you can take it. Somehow that's how he's got the money. Why would he need the money? Because in the press conference, Tony Khan said he's not signed to a new contract. Yeah. So Daniel Garcia is working theoretically without a contract. And it's quite a nice tease if you're interested in the sort of the real side of things, even though he's probably re-signed. Meanwhile, in the actual aftermath of the segment, MJF would typically, he'd been put in a chokehold. He was nearly given a power driver from the top rope. He would have been half knocked out, he would have powdered, he would have stood on the ramp as far away as possible as the security were holding Daniel Garcia, the babyface, back. He had a bit of fight in him. He'd sort of tried to shake off the guillotine and was trying to get back in there. That felt like it was revealing that in character, MJF doesn't yet fully respect Daniel Garcia, and he should. Like, how many times have we seen him run away from people and he wasn't running away as a heel? And Garcia should pick up on that and be like, are you not taking me? I might be working without a contract. I might just be some poor kid that's still trying to make it, but you need to fear me and respect me, and I'm going to put you down and put you out. And the pile driver off the top now being set up as like a brand new Tiger driver, but in this time a babyface actually wants to hit it, is quite a nice follow-on from Wembley. I'm super, super jacked up for this. I think it's going to be...
This is like such a turnaround from how it all started, because it's gone from a really cool upper mid-card match for All Out, and that is from, if you recall, conversations around, God, I hope that's not a three-way at Wembley with Garcia involved. Yeah. So I think they've handled it all, in retrospect, really, 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 really well. And that goes back to kind of the theme of this pod, if you like, of just let's see where they're going. Let's see where they're going here. Let it play.
We got a recap of Ricochet's debut at All In, and then we got the All-Star 8-man tag. Hook, Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe versus Chris Jericho, Big Bill, Brian Keith, and Roderick Strong. Usual sort of, I'm in from Jericho. Oh, here comes Hook, I'm out again. Anyway, big brawl takes us to our first break. When we come back, Jericho's working over Orange Cassidy, but he gets out the full Nelson hold by putting his hands in his pockets and does that nice drop kick of his. In comes Mark Briscoe with some redneck kung fu. He cleans house, but Strong just sneaks up and hits a huge backbreaker on him. Kyle O'Reilly comes in, House of Fire, but Big Bill just batters everyone. There's a super spinning black hole slam on Orange Cassidy by Bill, takes us to another break.
Oh my God.
There's one point, I can't remember where this was.
Would that look great?
Yeah. There's one point, I can't remember where this was in the match, but someone, I think it might have been earlier on, someone's up against the barrier, and Kyle O'Reilly went to like kick their head, and it like glanced their head and just nailed the fan. And I did like kind of actually like, sorry,
but it's a match. I'm trying to kill him. Yeah.
Fair play to the fan for just eating that by the looks of things. Anyway, so we come back from that break. Hook's chucking Strong about. T-bone suplex on Big Bill. There's a Northern Lights suplex pin that gets broken up by Brian Keith. The orange punch gets blocked. Briscoe throws him out the ring. Jericho hits him with a Briscoe with a running lariat. Teaser's doing a dive to the outside, but it just stops the wave to the fans. Hook chucks him around. Orange Cassidy and Briscoe.
It was funnier than Jericho's.
Cassidy and Briscoe hit dives. Strong and Hook are the last men, and Hook counters End of Heartache into Red Rum. Strong's foot is under the ropes. The referee doesn't see it and calls for the match. There's brawls everywhere as the match is finished. Undisputed Kingdom come down to attack Hook, ending with a running knee from Strong. And you said yourself in the office that wasn't...
He's like bored.
Sure was.
You didn't think that was a mistake necessarily, that his foot was under the ropes?
Not quite. I just don't think it was the kind of mistake where you can tell a tell a story with it. Like it's either that was put in place to.
It's an obvious angle alert.
Yeah, that's it. Like the shooting of it was such that like, hang on, but like her stepping over it is going to set off all the bad faith accounts, which it's already done. People are seeing that clip and making their minds up on it without any sort of other context. And look, it could be just this thing that's
Filmed his foot in close up.
yeah. Like I know this, you know this, but
Some people have got the blinkers on, I think, with these sorts of things.
yes. I've got so little to say on this other than the fact that like Tony Khan was tweeting in defense of it before it even happened.
Oh.
Like, the people were saying this looks terrible, and he was like, "Come on, trust me, guys. I'm like, what was the exact word? Sorry, sis. Like,
Yeah, sometimes you have to trust me. This match will rock AEW Dynamite on TBS.
so like, it didn't for me.
What?
Not just AEW Dynamite on TBS.
That's what he said?
I know he always tweets like that.
That's what he said?
Yeah.
I got now out of the match, and then I thought, well, that's all right because the post-match might be something like what's like maybe Jericho's going to be moving on to something new or out of the company forever, and instead it was
Ricochet's here, so yeah.
and it was just an undisputed Kingdom beatdown. I don't care about that either. Real net loss to the show, this, considering the amount of bodies out there.
Always is with Chrissy G. It's, I mean, you're going to have, like, I said this on the preview in a long run. I'll try not to take up too much more of your time. They said last week, and what an embarrassment, an indictment on all things Jericho this is. If you win that FTW title, don't worry, you'll never have to be involved in my storyline anymore. You know what I mean? So what does that say about the storyline? It hardly says that, like, people are absolutely chomping at the old bit to watch the match. It means that they're bored of it, and you sort of hang the lantern on the fact that you're bored of it. We promise you it will all be over. Like WWE wrestling pay-per-views should be, you'll never want this to come because that means it's closer to the end. It should never be, be what a relief, it's finished. You know what I mean? Never. It's finished already. Finished already. You flanderized this podcast. I apologize to the day ones. And then if you have to apologize for booking the match, just ultimately do not book the match. But we were dickheads yesterday, or rather, we weren't. We weren't cynical dickheads on the preview. We were going, "Thou shalt always let it play out." And we were basically saying, "Look, we've had a great time at Wembley, and on reflection, the vast majority of the build, the shoe stuff, the Danielson stuff, some of MGF's patter, and the line about maybe the next kid's not going to be yours either. Like some great stuff in that build, like the first Mercedes Brit stuff. Maybe we should let things play out a bit." And then yesterday we were like, you know what, maybe there will be something half decent involving Chris Jericho and more. Fool us. In terms of the match, there were some cool bits. It was all well constructed. Big Bill sidewalk slam and Bossman slam is just absolutely out the air. It's unbelievable. The thing with the conglomeration is that it's not just the action. It's a vibe. It's a wonderful vibe. And then Chris Jericho. That's, Chris Jericho is looking around and thinking, well, there's not many hot acts who I can work with these days. Good. People doing good stuff, but not many, like, he's a hot new thing. I don't really know. So, what do I need? It used to be young flesh. It's the vampire that he is. Now he needs a vibe to, like, not be Jericho. So he's glommed onto the conglomeration.
Nice.
Nicely done.
Thank you very much. I'm turning to the dark side by getting these guys' approval. Yeah, I'm bored talking about it. I'm bored listening to myself.
Well, we'll move on.
Oh, no, we won't. Because I've got one more thing to say.
Okay.
Roddy Strong could potentially do more for Hook in one match than Chris Jericho did in 5 months.
Yes.
Roderick Strong should kill him. And it won't be the only murder I want to watch. We'll get to that later. Thou shalt kill.
Backstage, Mercedes.
Money.
It's a bit after 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 a bit.
Is celebrating her TBS championship win. There's private party. She's got a New Japan Strong championship defense that they mentioned.
Like normal parties.
It's Legends Night.
I was waiting for Ted DiBiase.
This is Legends Night, and I'm thinking, ooh, what a night. What is this?
Normal as out.
You've got a New Japan Strong Championship match coming up on Friday.
Upcoming on wrestling.
And
Wrestling stinks. I was in a good. I'm done. I was in such a great mood at All In. I really enjoyed a lot of the show. Wrestling stinks.
You got all these balloons and streamers, probably normal party supplies, I imagine. Mm-hmm. Kind of do it, they kind of dress a set like that.
Private Party also try and crack on to Mercedes, but she's not interested. Camille sort of steps in, and so does Kazuchika Okada. Monet asks how to say bye, bitch, in Japanese. So she says, sayonara, bitches.
His show was really underwhelming garbage. This like,
I thought, well, at least we've got Mariah May's championship celebration to come.
Was this a bit like, let's just pretend that TBS title match on Wembley didn't happen?
Maybe they were promoting an entirely different match. So yeah, maybe. What the hell was this?
Like, I'm not being funny, right? This is a little backstage segment that maybe someone will remember once in the years to come. You've got Mercedes Moné, right? She's meant to be this in-demand megastar who just kicks ass in the ring, goes to red carpets. This is their own character description. Goes to red carpets, and then she goes to the most expensive nightclubs with the coolest people. This party did
disco.
She did. She went with Adam Wilborn. This party could not have looked any more lame. It's bad character work.
Yeah.
It is. It's legitimately. It's
Gallus organised.
It's worth putting over. This character should not exist in this setting. Or this version of the setting, anyway. She should be celebrating, She's Mercedes Moné. It's pathetic.
But don't worry, we've got the AEW Women's Championship celebration.
So in it.
And then next is like
Elements of wrestling are so Now what's this?
Tony Schiavone introduced
To a party, however. In one room for 1 minute. For one ad hoc little room one repurposed room for 30 seconds.
Nicholas just compared it to Cafe Disco from the office.
So Mariah May comes out. Tony congratulates her for winning. But Mariah grabs the microphone and says, championship celebration's postponed. I'm not doing it in champagne. Champagne? More like flat and stale piss beer.
Fucking hell.
This combined 5 minutes was 2019 WWE Dynamite.
2019
WWE Dynamite.
She said something. I've not written it down exactly, but she said something about, that's what you're shoving down your necks, the flat and stale piss beer, along with some other stuff. What was she talking about with regards to the women of this town desperately needing something else?
The cocks.
Oh, okay. She also talked about them needing glamour. She can provide that.
But she said it.
And
Turn over your head.
She takes off her robe. And she's got the towel around her waist.
What else?
She's got a lovely bit of attire on.
Describe it to the listeners who might not have watched Dynamite. No, the button.
Okay.
It was like suspenders or something.
Yeah. This is rubbish.
Yeah, poor.
I was back to back, like you say. I was like, what the hell's going on? Are we running out of time or something?
I will reiterate what I said the last time her live segment bombed. They should have given them all mic time in the build. How do you accomplish that? By maybe doing stuff with the women throughout the show and not just in one sort of localized or two localized areas.
Postponed.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a bit? She's going to keep, this is the week I do the celebration and just keep...
Emelina.
Yeah. I don't know.
Fan of Emelina Wilborn?
What I am a fan of are the grizzled young veterans.
This is also very weird.
I was going to say, were you a fan by the end of it? Because kind of too much of it, in fact. I grit my teeth so much I'm gnashing down to dust.
What I like is when they say something, and they say...
Even Edgewood Edgewood I have turned into Charlie Nicholas. Even Edge wouldn't grit his teeth that much.
also like the fact that they didn't know who they were.
Oh, this was a nightmare.
When we're facing on Rampage, it's the Outrunners just right there in the corner.
And it was as if, right,
This is a nightmare every second.
it was as if, so the graphic flashes up and you're like, oh, they made a balls up of that. And someone backs in, get the graphic up. But then somebody's pressed the button twice, so it starts flashing and it's like, do you miss it? Rampage, Outrunners, like,
There was
Match of the year, but you know.
there was weird graphic stuff all night. There was one like, yeah, put that graphic up in the left-hand corner with a black background. No, it's I'm trying to watch Hangman Page versus Tomohiro Ishii. What on earth are you doing? And Mr. Bean working the bloody buttons.
they brought Mr. Bean looking at us back from Wembley.
That's the wrong graphic. Draw a face on it. Just draw a face on someone else.
I
Anyway,
felt so sorry for them.
They look like assholes.
Yeah.
they have it out with the UIB. Have it out with the Young Bucks. You're like, oh yeah, you know, you're not out to get us, so it's fine. They're like, we are actually out to get you. We're out to get
Whole division.
There's not a promo you could cut twice at all that would survive this. Like, and as the King of the Ring, I must have noticed to each of the WWE superstars, Austin 360, I just whipped your ass. Music plays, walks backstage. I said, Austin 360, that die.
Yeah, basically they said, grit your teeth and your books. Like, oh, that's a bit weird. And then it got to the GYV.
Not again.
I thought, okay, we're giving Zach Gibson like a bit of promo time now.
Not another one.
They've done a clip.
Imagine the pipe bomb ended like that.
And then, yeah.
I won't switch back on.
Yeah.
When people say that, I know AEW is a bit of a shambles, you know. Like Alvarez reports that certain talent have said to him, I know it's totally shambolic. You think, no, because I remember this storyline leads weekly to this. God, how shambolic can it be if you think about all these storylines put together? I said, great, you think? Grizzled young Pickerings.
Oh, God.
And then having a bare knuckle fight against the Outrunners on one of the most incredible episodes of Rampage I've ever seen.
But they didn't say that, did they? As I will take on any mystery opponent, Outrunners. That's what we said, any mystery opponent.
Yeah.
Outrunners.
We're gonna do
Other way.
That didn't really sound like out. It's more like oh, so I was going to
Oh, God. Like, look, it's funny to take the piss a bit. Promising rollout, immediately, like, get a huge debut at Wembley.
It's not funny. It's not funny. If I'm in charge of AEW, I want a root and branch investigation into this production. The audio issues, all of this. Just have a shit. You know, have a month off. I'm already back to tell them to have a month off. All of it was like 4 days ago.
You tell me off at the start of this podcast and not appreciating the things I've done recently.
No.
But no, they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
Challenge
Good
champions. This was not so good.
Yeah.
Did I press the right button, boss?
Then we got a great package about Takeshita in the G1.
Yeah. The Rampage match is good, but but my Rampage, if anything, actually.
Yeah, the Rampage looks like one of the most incredible shows of the week. In the match, Sid, I've bloody messed my notes up here. It's a 4-way, isn't it? I've written it down as if it's a 3-way because I've got Takeshita, Leo Rush, Commander, and someone else.
It's the Beast, Mortos.
Yeah, so
Might bloody have to now. Like, that's it. You know what's happening here?
Yeah.
And, like, I want to know who the GYV are facing. So I'm going to have to tune in. Do you want the Outrunners or the mystery box? Take the Outrunners. But the mystery box would have the Outrunners in
it. Ricochet versus Carl Fletcher was next. Don Callis was on commentary for this. Ricochet showcasing his incredible athletic ability early on, dodging Fletcher all over the place, sent him outside with a somersault drop kick, feigned a running dive and does that awesome pose that he does in the ring. But Fletcher avoids a dive from Ricochet, hits a tope in his own, and then sends him over the barricade with a running boot, taunts the crowd, attempts another one, but gets hit with a springboard Meteora by Ricochet to take us to break. When we come back...
See what he did after he hit Meteora.
What's this? Oh, yes, sorry!
Suck it.
He said, hit the Meteora and then said...
Time to suck my dick.
Yeah, that popped me. I forgot about that. They're on the top turnbuckle. Ricochet headbutts him and hits a springboard clothesline. Another springboard body strike. Enziguri, Northern Lights final cut combo from Ricochet. Running shooting star press gets a 2 count. Fletcher comes back though with some clotheslines. Gets hit with a rolling drop kick that sends him to the outside though. Ricochet does this very Ricochet dive through the ropes, but gets intercepted by Fletcher's boot. As a brainbuster for a near fall. Fletcher
is from Australia, not New Zealand.
Running drop kick.
Oh, South Africa.
Attempts the belly to back tombstone, but Ricochet lands on his feet.
Put me to sleep. Just put me down altogether. Jesus Christ.
Kicks Fletcher in the head, hits the Death Valley driver, and hits that lifting reverse DDT that he calls Vertigo for the 1-2-3. A win on his debut.
I didn't think much of this at all.
No, I thought it sucked ass,
I
really.
didn't think much of this.
I mean, got you talk.
He didn't, right, the dive where he like sort of goes at Darby Allin speed, then cannonballs himself, was probably the closest to a thing that you don't see Ricochet do very often. And that was key to the success of the Wembley thing. Even though he lost, it was like, Christ, he looks in the mood to prove a point here. And maybe that's setting the bar too high, but basically in all of his singles matches until he fights Ospreay, that's the expected level. He's got to be doing something that, because the whole point of this, not the whole point of the Ricochet signing, but Ricochet signing, there's got to be this element of, he was never going to get the chance he deserved over here, but now he's over here. And the worry is that he's been lapped or he's been overtaken. Now, the style has been normalised. Through no fault of his own, by the way, but like just everyone catches up and so on. So it's like, no, I've got to prove that there was a reason why it was me you fell in love with first. Rey Mysterio in 2018 with the STEMI cells, like that kind of thing. It's like I was the original of all this. And he didn't. That was the thing. Like the finisher was a poor choice for me. I know this maybe sounds like I'm asking for too much. Probably just go with a double rotation moonsault right out the gate.
I don't think you can do it anymore.
Maybe he can't. And we were talking
which is the most fine thing ever.
Yeah. But something that was just like, oh my God, like that is something that maybe even a Will Ospreay couldn't do, because that's what you're supposed to think about. We're going to get to that in a second. And maybe, we were discussing this today, maybe there's an element of Ricochet intentionally toning it down. At some point they will address, and again, process being trusted here, that they will suggest Ospreay has, a lot of people are saying that Ospreay has just surpassed Will Ospreay in every single regard, and then Ricochet, and then the match happens, and no, he hasn't. They're both still even, and Ricochet's been hiding stuff.
I think he has, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. This was, whether it was an agent thing or whatever, just several poor choices and not enough of the rares and tears out the ace from Ricochet.
No juice, very minimal heat, very little flash, very excitement. I'll say one thing. Kind of a match of two halves, this. Like, Ricochet versus Kyle Fletcher started off quite strong, but then Kyle Fletcher versus Shane McMahon went really off the rails and fell apart. This guy was blowing out of his goddamn ass. And is it fine? He was wrestling about 6 weeks ago.
It was unexpected. I didn't expect to see. He looked like he was...
It looks like he's been
taking
listening.
a goddamn bump in my life. I'm the most unathletic guy I know, but still, Just to cut, I don't want people being like... Oh.
There was one move where I was like, what the hell were you trying to do there?
Yeah.
You remember, I can't describe the move because I didn't know what the move was,
Aye.
what they were trying to do.
Fletcher got a lot of the match as well.
Yeah.
More than I thought.
I mean, it's AEW, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just what they do. It is just what they do. Fletcher looked better than Ricochet. Absolutely not ideal. Ricochet looks like he, and in fact has. It might be the equivalent, of Shinsuke. Go on, do a G1 final then. What? It's not just the fact that there's a clear difference in how fast and hard you're told to go on WWE's main roster. It's a bit different now, I would argue, than it was under the last years of Vince. But it's still, that principle still applies. I mean, AEW like the bleed, they do head drops, faster. It's a bit more of everything. Ricochet looked like he couldn't keep up here. Looked like he couldn't keep up. It looked like he looked like he'd had a really lengthy layoff from injury more than he's just jumped promotions. This was really remarkably, oh God. And it's not just the idea of he can't do the moves, because look at his keep up. It's ridiculous. It's like he slithers upwards, you know? He doesn't like spring. It's like he can just sort of control his body that way. So that still looks incredible. There was an element of like, I don't know if he's just been, right, okay, doing this many house shows or this 8-minute TV match where don't do anything to get too over. They'll probably tell you off, if anything. Maybe he's just got that conditioning to just wrestle without much in the way of thought. And that's not me necessarily being WWE. It's not. Like, Finn Balor said that he needed the heel turn and the judgment, or the NXT refresh, because he was just like, yeah, I kind of know what I have to do in every match and go through the motions. And he just felt like he just could just go out there, done, back, turn his mind off, because it's just what they do there. Maybe he needs to realize, Ricochet, that you need to put way more thought into it. Not just the physical thing of getting lapped by these guys who've been going harder than he has for years and years and years. I'm not disappointed by this. Post-match was good.
Yes. Should we talk about it now? Yeah. Will Ospreay comes out. Looks like he's going to cut a promo. Before he could do that, he's suddenly poison ranted on his head by Back, who says, "Don't forget that bastard." Welcomes Ricochet to AEW, and then says, "Back of the lane. Ospreay belongs to me."
They're going to do a 3-way at some point, and it's, well,
Oh my God.
Ricochet can wake up. It might be out of this world. What an unbelievable sneak attack.
Yeah.
Just like, I've never seen that before. Never. Great stuff.
Ricochet going to Ospreay's aid was notable, I thought, because Ospreay hadn't said anything, but Ricochet is working on the assumption that when they do have the match, it's going to be out of mutual respect. And I think that was worth illustrating that before you even get to the Pac match. You're right about this, the Ricochet thing, the AEW, as opposed to WWE, where the house style is very carefully curated as a certain way, the AEW house style is any style, and that's such a broad canvas to paint on.
Yeah.
Ricochet might need to take a little while, but hang on, I've got a million different colours I can paint in here. I just didn't think I could or should or whatever.
People
and
like,
take a few weeks to maybe just...
There was an Excalibur quote, and it obviously applies to a different era of WWE, where he was talking about the complexion of the AEW locker room, and obviously half of them coming from the indies, and then you've got like Moxley, and then a few more that followed him. And he said, half the locker room came from the indies, the other half have got PTSD. Which is a pretty good witticism, you know. Look, I know he wanted to move Ricochet, so there's always the sense of there can't be that much in the bubble because they want to move and they've seen what's outside of it, so they can't be in it that much. So he obviously wants to go there and be Ricochet again. I don't know, maybe he's just thought, maybe it's that WWE thing of, I don't have to do that much here. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that, or maybe he just can't. Full stop. How old is Ricochet? I'm too old to be going on like he does on social media, but how old is he really?
35.
Nice.
Or in our 30s.
Wrestler Prime.
Wrestler Prime. Not Athletic Prime, but wrestler.
It's been a week, so.
Yeah, it's been one match. One mid-match. Don't like his little flares. See this?
What,
you heard about this? He's got what looks like little flared trousers.
Yeah.
Look terrible.
Never as bad as a bodysuit, is it? Remember when he would just cover up his torso?
Yeah.
That was the worst.
I don't like little flares. Looks like latter-day Christopher Daniels gear.
Oh, I hated those.
Yeah. Don't wear the little flares. Just get your bloody normal bloody tights back on. Grow up. Put your tights on.
this is where we got the
Pretend to have a fight.
Mox Marina Shafir bit. And then out comes your new AEW World Champion, Bryan Danielson. Gets a great reaction, of course. Fans chant, "You deserve it." He says, after trying and failing repeatedly, he's now the AEW World Champion. He holds the belt up. Said that over 50,000 people were there in Wembley Stadium. His family saw his biggest moment. His daughter said it was the best day of her life, although that might have been due to going on the double-decker Peppa Pig bus tour.
That probably is pretty good.
Aye.
I don't even like Peppa Pig, but in London, that's
funny.
It's probably pretty good. Yeah. It's got its odd moments, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pepper can be a real asshole to a friend sometimes. Some pops in there.
Not watched much Pepper. I need to catch
I
up.
hope not, you nonce. Your kid's only one.
No, I mean for like my nephew and stuff.
It's because you were watching Bellator and then Pepper came on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Bellator?
There was a story I told him a while back where Bellator, which is a different MMA promotion, did a thing in the UK and it went on till past 6 in the morning, and they just cut off the feed of the main event because it was back to like pre-watershed basically. Yeah. So they're just like, oh my god, who's gonna die in this main event? Oh no, Tampa Bay.
We're all on our 30s. Fact.
Danielson said that when he saw his peers congratulate him in the back after everything that happened, it was the biggest and best moment of his career, which is just lovely. He was asked at the press conference after All In, though, what's next? Talked about his contract obviously expiring, and he needs neck surgery. His family's ready for him to come home soon. We're all thinking, where's this going? When he first got to AEW, one of the first things he said was thank you to the people who started this place. AEW's awesome, he says. He's loved professional wrestling his entire life. And the fact that AEW even exists makes pro wrestling better and has made his life better. When he thinks of all AEW did and looked to his peers, think of all the people who will wrestle in AEW in the future, he's realized it's probably time for him to go home. But not yet!
Oh my God.
He's not going to retire as AEW champion. He's going to fight for this title as much as he possibly can. Don't get it twisted. As soon as he loses this, his career is over. But that's not going to be anytime soon. He's still got a lot of heads to kick in. 2 weeks, all out. Chicago, he gets it. There's a young, hungry locker room. He's got an AEW World Championship to defend. Anyone who wants a shot, come get it. And who should appear on the Tron but Jack Perry, who says, look, I want to connect the dots. Nobody wanted me back. Nobody believed in me, including you. I had to go and create my own future. And that's what I did when I got back. I punched Tony Khan. I destroyed Kenny Omega. I won the title. I buried Darby Allin at Wembley. The only time we stood across from each other in the ring, I think he said I'd just been set on fire, but I also beat you. I'll do it again. My future is to retire Bryan Danielson, whether anyone likes it or not. My future and the future of AEW are one and the same. And Brian, your future's behind you. But it's all a ruse. Jack Perry's is a video on the Tron. He's not live because suddenly he attacks Bryan Danielson in the ring and hits him with that running knee. And the close of the show is him holding up not just his TNT championship, but the AEW championship as boos rain down on the scapegoats.
Absolutely. I'm into this while acknowledging that people kind of in the building went, not sure about this. It didn't feel like, oh, wow, Danielson versus Perry. And it's one of those things where you talk about like long-term storylines and pushes and booking and character work and blah, 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 blah. It's ultimately like, who do the fans believe in? Who's got that sort of credibility? Not like in terms of how closely they can realistically fight, but in just who they want to see and who they believe in. And like Perry was like kind of the best pushed guy in the promotion, actually, if you join everything up since my return. He's won loads, he's a champion, he's pinned Danielson, does have incredible credentials for this. Credentials so incredible that when you just talk about AEW generally with friends or online or on this podcast, those credentials are in fact so strong that you should be talking Perry more over as a potential champion. Why don't you? So I understand, and there's a good reason for that, because people don't really take him seriously as a guy who can headline on main event or be a world champion. So I get it. I do get to a degree the negative response that mainly I saw online to this announcement and this. But the way I see it is that, one, I'm in a good mood with AEW generally. That Mercedes money thing really pissed me off something fierce. It really did. Wrestling just being crap. Just thoughtlessly, I've always done this, let's do it again. Yeah. Thoughtlessly crap pro wrestling. But other than that, I'm in a really good mood with AEW right now. And Swerve versus Hangman is your main event for maybe what has become AEW's first B show, All Out. Just in the shadow of Wembley.
Yes, yeah.
You could describe this as AEW's first B show. What do you do on a B show? You do Cody versus AJ, who cares? That's just what wrestling companies do, if you want to be realistic about it. And Jack Perry versus Bryan Danielson could be absolute sick filth that must be banned. And I want to put over Sean Jabroni on Twitter, because I tweeted in support of this narrative development, responding to me with two things. One, the problem with my reason why I like it is that basically I think that Jack Perry, if you imagine the facial he wore at Dynasty when he came back, right? Imagine Bryan Danielson slapping the piss out of that violently over and over again. That's good booking. That's great matchmaking. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a round and find out moment for the ages in this Danielson Perry match, okay? So that's why I'm in favor of it for the B-level pay-per-view. Sean Jabroni pointed out that he's not a stooging heel. Perry he thinks he's too hard, really. The finish of Blood and Guts would support that favour. The thing is, yes, Perry sees himself that way. Danielson doesn't. I think he's either pitched himself to do this match because he's a bit of a sadist bully, just wants to slap the piss out of him, or he's approved it. I'm very certain he could do everything he wants. If there's nothing he doesn't want to do, he's not going to do it. Or he's gone, oh yes, I will do that suggestion, Tony, because I can do this. He will not treat him as an equal or a contender. He will slap the piss out of him, and it'll be horrible and beautiful at the same time. Sean also pointed out, do you think that it could draw unfavourable comparisons with the Starks match, with the idea being he just slapped him down to size? And it's going to be a similar deal. Potentially, but I want to see Jack Perry in that face.
In Chicago.
Get slapped. You're getting slapped, Dan. That's what I want to see.
And like that's
just good matchmaking.
That's a challenge to rise to. That's not something to run in fear of, is it? That's wrestlers should always look at that and think, well, I might be able to do that, but even better. You go in with the best of intentions to improve upon what you've seen before, rather than just think, I can't top that. Like you won't find many wrestlers talking about their own career that way. I felt like maybe it is just as simple as people don't really buy Jack Perry in this spot and are choosing not to look at some of the context that like Sidge has applied there. Because I'm with Sidge 100% on this. It felt like there was a confluence of different criticisms of Jack Perry in this. Like a come down from Wembley, maybe. The fact that Bryan, we'd all pretty much at this point pinpointed that Bryan was going to lose, then retire. Might not be direct lose the belt and then retire, but lose the belt and then this is good. Maybe there's going to be one last match. But so everybody starts making their dream match list because there is a countdown clock. And Jack Perry isn't on people's lists. So that's yet again a case of, that wasn't really what I was expecting. Not even Christian Cage, who we know is in the conversation.
Yeah.
A Darby Allin that's going to be there waiting for whoever at Grand Slam. So I think it was a confluence of a few things like that. However, this to me feels like one of them like styles make fights conversation. I was looking at the chemistry between these two and the possibilities of it more than I was give me the biggest match graphic you have. That, by the way, is one of the benefits of having Bryan Danielson as your world champion, because you are permitted to be optimistic 10 times out of 10. And occasionally, and I mean almost never, you're let down or you're surprised by how something didn't click in the way that you thought it might. But for the most part, always have faith. And like out of those 10, 9 of the times he's going to reward your faith. And that's the benefit of him being your world. When the best wrestler is the world champion, that's the benefit, you know? And I think that's maybe an adjustment for people. Like, because Swerve was a guy who needed to have the big match because that promo he cut last week where he's recapping everybody's beat. And it was, that felt like it was making a point, didn't it?
Yeah.
I have beaten the best, and now I'm prepared to beat you. And there's probably never been a better time for offbeat challenges to get a go. A, when the title match doesn't need to be the main event. B, when the champion is Bryan Danielson.
C, when it's 2 weeks away. Yeah. You're not using Christian Cage, as you mentioned.
Yeah, no.
So hard to build almost anyone.
This is not a fumble. This is an opportunity.
Unless you put MJF in, but then you'd burn through. Yeah, and they've obviously all. Yeah.
I love the idea that it isn't Christian Cage, because I thought they were doing it for that same reason. It's like, well, he's had a title match on pay-per-view already this year, but it's Christian Cage. But he can do a B-level pay-per-view. They're building something big with this Christian Cage Danielson match, and I'm thinking he's going to break my heart and make me think that he's going to be the champion and retire Danielson. Like, I really like that wrinkle. And, you know, like, the thing about Jack Perry is I don't think he's ever going to be more than he is, but I think situationally he can be incredible in this match. And, you know, if you disagree, he's still banging the hardest bitch in the place.
Goat versus the scapegoat. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, nice.
But let us know your thoughts on that and the whole of AEW Dynamite in the comment section below or on X at WhatCulture WWE. Well, actually, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Michael Sidgwick at
I'm Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE, as I said. Make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from, for daily wrestling podcasts. But for now, it's been the AEW Dynamite review. My thanks to Hamflett. Thanks to Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.